Good morning again. I hope that you can hear me. If anyone is on, please let me know if you can hear me, if I have sound, because I tried it before and for some reason my sound wasn't working. So I'm hoping I have sound now. So let's start this over. I'm going to take the reason I didn't have sound as a basement moment. And that's a perfect example of what will happen once you move from the basement. You still have basement moments. So hopefully I have sound now. Everyone can hear me, and we will go from where we are. Let me do a quick recap. What I did talked about before was that we went through chapter 1 through 4, and in chapter 1 through 4, we talked about awareness, becoming aware of where you are, becoming aware that you have options to stay there or to move, and the opportunity to make the choice to move. And whatever choice you make, that will determine your future. Chapter 5 through 7, we talked about the decision. Once you made the decision, the decision to move, then we talked about motivation, inspiration, and some of the things that will stop you from moving. Um, for some reason, I'm going to take it that this video today is for someone that's waiting to hear what I have to say, because my allergies haven't been bothering me all morning. I haven't had tech problems before, but for some reason, this morning I'm having all these issues. So I am going to be more determined to do this video because of this, because I feel that whatever I have to say today is going to help someone. And that's the reason I'm having such a hard time. So I'm going to do this video, and whoever it is for, I hope it help you move from your emotional basement. I hope it help you detach from whatever is holding you there. I hope it open the doors that you've been trying to get through. And I hope it closed the doors behind you so that you won't return to the basement. I'm going to do this video for you. And we're going to talk about moving from the basement. In chapter 8 through 10, we're talking about a physical, chapter 8, we're talking about the body. and I use the living room as our body. Why? Because when we first come into a house, the first thing we see is a living room. When you first look at a person or someone first look at you, they see your body. So the living room, I'm talking about your physical body. How you see your physical body, how others see you, and how God see you. I saw my physical body one way, my physical self one way, and I thought the way I had a different thought about how I thought people saw me. Then I also learned how God saw me. And most of the time, those three things are very different because we judge ourselves very harshly. And I did. I always saw myself, I only saw myself as barely average. Never I never did enough and always felt short of my potential and goals, while others saw me as confident, trustworthy, a go getter. These two things was constantly in battle within me. A friend told me one time, he said, Alice, the problem with you is you can't see your ears. And when he told me that, I didn't really get at what he was saying. But what he was saying is what people are constantly telling me. I can't see it. And I couldn't until I made my move from the basement. And then how God saw me, God didn't see me as the way I look or my physical body. He saw me from within. So that's what we're going to be talking about when I talk about the physical body. I'm not reading this word for word, but I did highlight some things that I think is very important for you to kind of meditate on. And if you don't have the book, I think chapter 8 through 12 is worth you investing in the book. The link is in the description. You can follow me along on the video, but these 8 through 12 are chapters you need to read over and over again. Every time I read them, I get a new revelation about me. So, one of the things on page 51 was where I was talking about the reason I didn't want to move from, hadn't made a permanent move from the basement. The bigger reason was that I was afraid to walk through the room and confront the shadows of the past. Now, we talked about the shadows in chapter in the part two, and we talked about how shadows are fear, the fear of things that have happened, and we are afraid that if we go forward or if we do something, do the same thing, or try again, that those same fears will come up, that we will have those same fears. And it's that fear, it's just a shadow, though. It's not real because it has already happened. And we are in control if it happened again. So that was one of the things that I was afraid of. The other was I had lived so long with fear that it become my excuse. It contributed to hindering my progress. I had to decide where I stood. I could never fulfill God's purpose for my life. Okay, going on to page 52. Do you think you can only be loved for being perfect? I realized my game changing revelation came when early one morning in my prayer hour, a voice was dropped in my spirit, a statement. It said, "Do you know why I love you?" When I thought about the question, I realized at that moment that I had always associated love with my physical being. I created demands of perfection that was impossible to achieve, thereby relieving me from having to go 23rd. And we talked about 23rd in part 2. No matter how perfectly I attempted to make myself, in my subconscious mind, I had the image of everyone laughing at the 6-year old girl. So I had to ask myself, why does God love me? Why would anybody love me? And my answer came up. Maybe it was because not of my external, the living room, my physical body, but because of my internal self, what was inside of me. They loved me because I was a friend, I shared, I was kind and thoughtful, and never asked for anything in return. I was loved for the spirit within me, and it had nothing to do with my physical self. That's what so many times we judge ourselves or we put limits on how we think the world want us to look or how we should look or how we should talk, how we should behave, how we should wear our hair, how we should wear, what clothes we should wear. We put all these limits on us, and it's just too much. We have to learn to give ourselves grace. We have to learn to forgive ourselves. And we have to learn no one is perfect. But in someone else's eyes, no one may be perfect. But in God's eyes, we are perfect. We are perfectly made. This was the revelation that helped me to start working on my internal self when I could leave the external alone and move forward, trying to create my internal spirit. This revelation about why I love myself, why God loves myself, or anyone loves myself, it reminded me of on page 53, this revelation brought back a memory from my childhood. I remember watching Buzz Bunny cartoon on Saturday morning. And in one episode, there were all these hats flying in the air. Every time a hat would land on someone's head, they would take on that personality. If a policeman hat landed on their head, they became a policeman. If a bonnet landed on their head, they became a grandmother. If uh, whatever type hat landed on their head, they took on that personality. And I've realized that's what I had been doing. We understand that we are created differently. And we must understand that we're created differently and strange is okay. But we have to stop taking on every hat that people place on our head in order for us to be who we were created to be. Then, and the question is, are you changing hats to please others? For you to create your innermost being, for God created your innermost being. He knit you together in your mother's womb. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. His works are wonderful. I know that full well. The affirmation for the physical body was, we are often so determined to be who we think the world wants us to be that we don't see the value in who we really are. No one can see our true beauty at first glance. It requires an internal examination. People we meet will accept and respect who we are, but we must show them our true self. We are okay and enough just the way we are. We must remember to inhale love into ourselves before we attempt to exhale it into the world. Our existence and what we contribute to the world has a purpose. And I guess that's the perfect affirmation for this morning, because there was a time when I wouldn't have came back on. Fear would have kept me from coming back on after the tech problems. And I would have just been, I just wouldn't have been able to do it. But we have the ability, once we go into these rooms, and that's what we're talking about today, decluttering. First, we decluttered how we feel about our physical self, our external self. That's what we were talking about. Now we're going to go into the rooms. And remember, this was, I started this book with when I was thinking of my sister's apartment, her physical apartment that was in the basement, but it had different rooms. It had a kitchen, it had bathroom, it had a hallway, it had a living room, it had a bedroom. So that's what I'm using these rooms as. So in chapter 9, we're going to go into the kitchen, and the kitchen is our spirit room. I call it our spirit room because in the kitchen, that's where we consume our food. That's what makes us happy or makes us sad, makes us depressed, or makes us healthy. So that's why I use the kitchen as the spirit room. Okay, the kitchen was my spirit room and fed my thoughts. What I allowed my spirit in my spirit determined my self-worth and my mental health. My spiritual cupboard was stocked with naysayers who said I should settle for mediocrity or that I could not accomplish my dreams. Who is in the cupboards in your spiritual kitchen? They were stocked with homeowners filled with envy, suspicion, and the desire to for companionship because they no longer had hope. These are the people who were trying to convince us that our desire to succeed is motivated by greed or some other negative energy. When our spirits are cluttered with negativity, we become overwhelmed and it is difficult for us to progress. Are you too old? Some of the things that people in our spiritual kitchen might tell us, that we're too old, that we don't have the education, that we don't have the money to to accomplish our dreams. If on page 56 Second to the last paragraph. If I consume the bad food the homeowner served in the kitchen, it had upset my emotional digestive system and told me that the best life had to offer was expired plan and unattainable goal. That's that you're too old, you don't have the education. The spirit fed, the, the spirit feed and give life energy to my thoughts. It was the place where I went to feel my emotion, which determined how energy radiated in my environment. The quality of the food I fed my spirit established or destroyed the atmosphere in the rest of the room. Positive energy attracted positive energy, and negative energy attracted negative energy. Whatever you are around, that's what will be in your environment, and that will be what you are feeding your spirit. On moving day, we should carefully check our cupboards and labels when we are in the kitchen. Are there things that have been pushed to the back and need to be thrown out? Is there a refrigerator that contains perishable, such as is there a refrigerator that contains perishables such as milk me dry friends and jobs? Is the freezer filled with ice cold relationships? We knew these things were perishable, yet we kept them so long they become moldy and attached to our spirit, creating a virus called despair. There were other food we stored in our spirit which robbed us of joy, leftover pain, upside down decision, a life not seasoned with love or kindness, and one that never said, I'm sorry, or I forgive you. The lack of these seasonings created a blandness in our spirit that kept us from seeking a flavorful life. Then there are those cupboards filled with the overseasoned. And the overseasoned things are when we start saying, I'll never trust again. I'm in if we say, I don't need anyone. This wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't be in this situation if it wasn't for you. All those things are blame, and they have should expire. They have an exploration date. Throw all those items that was purchased without checking the expiration date. Throw them out. For me, it was a sink full of I'm going to do it when that led to the near death experience that opened my eyes. For years, I was saying, I'm going to write more when. I'm going to build my coaching practice when. All of my wins were based on how long I could consume the expired food of someone on someone else's menu. I had a job. I was accomplishing its mission, but I was not nearing my purpose. It was like running on a treadmill. My feet were moving, but I was going nowhere. I was so stressed out that my body was saying enough. I allowed negative energy into my emotion for 8 years, and it festered into contaminate my spirit. The labels had expired in 2009, and I was still consuming leftovers from it in 2016. A kitchen filled with rotten and expired food create a spirit of distress. This was food that I had been hoarding for years while ignoring the exploration date. And now it had manifest in my spirit and showed up in my body's reaction. What are you holding on to uh, that you know have expired and is causing you emotional stress, emotional pain? That's what was happening to me. And then there's a scripture that talks about how you can, when a uh, evil spirit come out of a person, it go out and it hunts for someone else to go into. And if it can't find it, then it will come back to that same person and it'll find the house clean. So that's where I'm at now. I have let all those rotten foods and spirits that were destroying my life, you cannot let them go. But this is the key. They will come back because when you have lived in a basement for so long with so many things, when you clean that basement, you might sweep it out, but those thoughts and things are still there. So they will come back. So the most important thing for you to remember is not to allow them to come back into your house. This is what happened when we run in and out of the basement. Each time it is more difficult to leave. We go out, we clean the basement. We okay, I'm not doing that anymore. We send it away, and then because changes are everyday thing. It's not something you can do just once. It's a continual work. You have to continually do it. And because when it comes that habit, that expired food, when it comes back, you have to be able to say, no, I've consumed enough of that, and not allow it back in. Do it will be harder the next time to push it out. The affirmation for this chapter was no one or thing can come into our spirit unless we give it permission. So we must choose wisely. Getting rid of the things that made me ill was important, but not reclaiming them from the garbage was essential. When restocking our kitchen, our spirit, we should never shop for emotional stability in the bargain aisle of the basement. Okay, I'm going to say that one again. When restocking our kitchen, our spirit, we should never shop for emotional stability in the bargain aisle of the basement. Relationships that are on sale are marked down for a reason. We should check the quality before we invest in the quantity. Seasonal people in our lives can become daily burdens on our spirit. So I want this is one of the reasons why I say if nothing else, if you have the book to read seven chapters 8 through, let me make sure what we're doing today, to read chapter 8 through 12 over and over, because there really are some nuggets dropped in there. And every time I reread it, I learned more about myself. So now we're going into chapter 10. In chapter 8, we talked about the physical body, what we see when we first look at ourselves, how we can judge ourselves just by looking at our physical body and not giving ourselves grace, forgiveness, and not recognizing what is within us internally. Then we went on to chapter 9, we talked about the kitchen, which is the spirit, where we go to be fed, where we go to what determine the health of our physical body. It's our spirit. So now we're going to go into chapter 10. And in chapter 10, I'm calling this the bedroom. And in the bedroom, the part of the body I'm calling it is our heart. Because a bedroom, the bedroom was my heart room, a place of renewal for body and spirit. And that's what our bedroom should be. That's what our heart should be. A place we can go to renew our body and renew our spirit. It is a private room, a sanctuary where we go to pray and love, a place that is filled with intimacy. The heart room was the place where I discovered secrets hidden so carefully that I had forgotten they were there. These were the secrets that made me ask, why am I moving forward? Why am I not moving forward in my relationships? And why do I always feel empty? This is when we talk about our heart, the reason I associate it with the bedroom is just like I said, your heart is an intimate place. It's a private place, but it's also a place you share with loved one. The same with your bedroom. A bedroom is an intimate place, a place you share with your loved one, a place you share your deepest secrets, and you can be exactly who you are. And that's how your heart should be. Okay, on page 61, it said, we are often so busy that we take the heart for granted and leave it too weak and open to attacks. The heart requires acknowledgement and respect. Our heart become heavy and cluttered with the overflow of things of others that others have thrown into it. What is it that you have allowed other people to place on your heart that you're setting up yourself for a heart attack? These are the feelings of unworthiness from the living room, an expired relationship from the kitchen. The heart was where I found the unwritten books, passions, and dreams I once had, all covered in a layer of regret. The madness from the world had overwhelmed me and turned my sanctuary into a stress filled prison. Unresolved issues leave the heart unprotected and waiting for an attack from challengers. Just like the sight of a disorganized room can make us tired, a disorganized life can make our heart tired. People depend on us to solve their problem, to calm their lives. And once we have poured ourselves into them, we often find that we are empty and there is nothing, no one to pour into us. In the bedroom, During quiet time, memories of past loves, family, and deep and work disrupt our peace. The heart is where we turn the television on for our spouse, television into our spouse to avoid conversation. And it is where we realize that owning a king side bed only separates us further from the person we share it with. All of these are attacks of the heart. If there is no harmony in the heart, it is in a state of distress. We often think that we could simply walk away from our bedroom. Life would be better. If we could simply walk away from our bedroom, life would be better. The problem with that theory is that the bedroom represents the heart, and we cannot live without it. No matter where we go, the heart and its shadows will be there until we confront them and declutter our bedroom. Are you willing to go 23 and walk through the shadows without the fear of a heart attack? Are you ready to confront the reason you are alone, even though you desire someone in your life? Are you willing to acknowledge that the someone now in your life may not be the right one? When we allow temporarily relationships into our heart, they always take a small piece of us and that we never regain. Are you willing to say no to family when they show up? No regard to your welfare, the welfare of your heart. Our hearts were our hearts are where we unknowingly write emotional checks. We write them when we give 100% for a return of 50%. We write them when we allow ourselves to be his or her second choice. We write them when we are not really sure if God is going to do what he said. So we attempt to help him. If there are people and things in our heart that constantly require us to write checks, creating overdraft on our emotional well-being, we need to examine the value of their occupying our bedroom. Who gave them the right to treat us that way? Maybe it was the check we wrote when we allowed them into our heart without telling them the rules. When we give others permission to cash those checks, we are chaining our emotions to the basement. We often think the big attacks is the cause of is what caused the most harms to our heart, when it is often the daily small ones that are most detrimental. It is a combination of the little things that destroy the whole. The affirmation for this chapter is: their heart is just as lonely whether we are alone or sharing it with the wrong people. We come into contact with many different spirits in life. and we can easily allow them to slip into our bedroom. The key is to recognize their presence, and if they are not worthy of staying, to release them. Love always spoken and deeds never fulfilled will keep our heart in permanent turmoil. It is our responsibility as the caretakers of our heart to protect it from attack and keep it in perfect rhythm. We should welcome love when it proves to be a worthy companion and guard our bedroom, our heart room with discernment, not distance. Watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flows the issues of life. And that is from Proverbs, 4th chapter, 23rd verse. And that is the part three for today. And again, I apologize for the when I first started the video, I had no sound, but I also took that as a coachable moment, as a teaching moment, as a move from the basement moment. Things will happen in your life because you move from the basement, do not guarantee you a stress free life, but it does guarantee you that you will be able to deal with it in a different way. It might send you back to the basement for a short trip, but it will not send you back to the basement for a stay. I hope you have found you got some value out of today's chapters 8 through 10. They are really deep chapters, and they're chapters that I would suggest that you read over, read maybe, like I said, every time I read them, I get a further insight into who I am and into how I'm building my life, how I'm progressing through life on my journey. So I hope it does that for you. If you're not a subscriber, I do ask that I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel. If you will leave a comment, I will address the comment. I really think this is a valuable that you can get value from uh these this four-part series. Later on, I do have a master class that I will be giving later in the year where we will do a deeper dive into moving from the basement, a deeper dive into the heart room, which is the bedroom, into the kitchen, which is the spirit, and into how we see our physical self, how we, whatever we see and we project, that's what others is going to receive. That's that positive and negative energy. If we give out negative energy about how we see ourselves, um, then that's what others are going to receive. So, with that, this will take care of part three. I will not be doing part four on next Monday. I will do it the following Monday because next Monday is my birthday and I will be out of town enjoying my birthday. That's one of those things you learn when you move from the basement. That's one of those self care moments. So I will be doing some self care and loving me next Monday. Hope you got value from this. Again, please share it with anyone that you think will get value from it. And I will see you in 2 weeks. Be well, be blessed, and bye.